All right. Oh. Did I mess something up, Lau?
What do you mean?
Well, I was raising my volume a little bit, and I accidentally clicked, and it says your meeting should start in a few seconds. I don't see you guys. Y'all disappeared. Wait a minute.
We see you and hear you.
Okay. I think I know it. I got you. I know what I did now. I'm still learning.
Okay.
I can't get my video to work. It says video is not available today, so which is not bad. My wife said you don't want to be on video anyway. I got your nasty looking beard.
Uh-oh.
Old and rough and gruff. And I said, well, oh, look at, there's a man with a beard. How's Steve? I'm going to try to get it working.
Steve, your microphone is muted. You want to turn it on?
Thank you. After Jim said that about the beard, I had to turn on my video.
That's my beard. Your beard looks good.
Sorry, I treat this like a mirror when I first get in here. It's like, man. Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Hey, Kathy.
Hi.
My picture is the flag today, I think. Heck, Doug.
We can pledge your picture.
You don't really want my picture anyway, so Sally will be happy. I put on a clean shirt just for this. We got Bob Weagle still lacking here.
Louise is muted.
Hello.
Hey.
There she is.
Louise's hair is about as long as mine is.
It is pretty long.
As long as it's been for a long time, too.
This is true. This is true.
Oh my God.
Wait, that's me. The fire alarm in my building is going off. Not a good thing.
Make sure there's no fire.
Oh, no. Holy.
Everybody had rain today?
Wow.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Poured down for a little bit over here.
Chief, you might want to make a comment about that tornado warning that kind of came in. That was not really a warning. It was just let you know there might be, right?
Yeah, it wasn't the typical weather briefing I seen, but they spotted a funnel cloud about 12:30 in Williamson County, and the update was that the atmosphere was a lot more unstable than they thought, but it wasn't enough to issue a tornado watch as of yet. If it changed, they would, but they just want to give everybody a heads up that the atmosphere was a lot more unstable this afternoon than they had originally predicted. So.
Well, if you hear anything, send it out to me, and I'll get it out to at least the neighborhood watch people.
Yeah, yes, sir, absolutely.
Looks like Peggy Warner's joining.
I see that.
And Eric,
Peggy, you can unmute yourself and say hello to everybody.
she can't. Can she hear us? I guess.
She ought to be able to hear us.
And Eric Clifford.
All right, my fire alarm is off, so I'm back with you.
Good.
It is good.
I just got a message from Sheralina Miller who says that 429 Jackson Boulevard is without power again. So,
Oh my.
No.
hope that's not a sign.
Oh,
Oh, me. Well, let's see. Mr. Weagle on there yet? Nope.
No.
I don't see him.
I'm working with Bob right now, trying to get him on.
Okay, we'll give him a minute.
Do we know Eric Clifford?
I don't know him, but he can say hello to us.
Hello. He's trying to connect. It looks like.
Oh, he just muted himself.
I thought now with the Zoom, there was a mandatory lobby that law had to let them in. So there wasn't people bombing in or whatever. Maybe that's,
Well, they have to have, I really think that they have to have our link to get in, and they can,
yeah, supposedly.
or at least our password is all built into our link. So that's
It's published on the website, so people can,
yeah, it really is.
the public can join. We have to allow that.
All right, I think Bob is trying to join. He should be on here in just a minute.
Okay. Doug, today, if you get a little closer to that microphone, you were not real loud at the BZA meeting. I just barely could barely hear you.
Oh, is that right? I'm sorry. I wish someone had told me.
Well, that's because I'm hard to hear and they're not.
Can you hear me okay now, Mayor?
Yeah, I hear you fine.
Okay.
Yeah, is Bob Weagle on now?
He looks like he's muted.
Bob, unmute yourself. Bob Weagle, there you go. Bob, can you hear us?
Bob, I just unmuted you.
Is that Bob at 485-7797?
9-7.
That's Nathan.
That's Nathan. Okay.
Okay. I don't know what's Bob.
Bob is, his last 4 digits are 7456.
So he's not on.
No,
There's a 205 number. Is that Alabama number? 205.
Oh.
No, that's probably Laura Catherine. Where's Laura Catherine? What's your area code?
Catherine's name is showing up.
Yeah.
Laura Catherine's showing up.
Laura Catherine, what's your area code?
205.
There's an Eric, I think that 205 is in the phone, it says.
yeah, that's Laura Catherine.
Up on the phone. That's not me. That 382.
Yeah, I don't know who that is. It might be Eric Clifford. No, it's not. I don't know who it is.
Eric Clifford's on the
Yeah.
computer. I called it.
Okay.
Can people using their mobile phone, can they actually put their name in there too?
I don't know.
But I can unmute them and ask for their identification if you'd like.
I think we would like to.
I'd like to do that.
Okay. Area code 205, would you please identify yourself?
Yes, this is Dylan Acock from Community Impact Newspaper.
All right, thank you.
Hi, Dylan.
Hi. We didn't realize you were Alabamian.
Phone number 306-6986, would you identify yourself?
Dylan Hood.
That's Dylan. Okay.
Yeah, got all our public works guys on.
Yeah.
All right, and telephone number 397-1260, would you identify yourself?
Marielle Hazelwood, Community Impact Newspaper.
Thank you.
All right.
I believe that's everybody. Bob has yet to join.
Did he? I don't know. Bob hadn't got a computer with. Bob hadn't got a computer with the camera on it.
No, but we did a test run earlier today, and he could see us, and he used his phone. So I'm going to make a call and see if I can't get him hooked up again.
You can do it on your phone. It's just hard to see it's so small. Right? I mean.
Yes, that's right.
Same. I just can't see it.
Laura Catherine. Yeah, we can see her.
I'm not on my phone though. I'm on my computer.
Okay.
Hey, Peggy.
Yeah,
Hi.
I'm here.
Hello.
Good.
Peggy, my wife told me that she didn't want to see me on this, and didn't want anybody else to see me either. I've got about a 7-day beard growth right now, and it's not pretty. But also my camera doesn't work. For some reason, my camera's out.
I need an excuse.
Yeah, that's a good one. We got 19 participants on here.
Wow.
Wow. Is that a record?
Maybe.
Wow. I've never seen one that, they can hold up to 100, but I've never seen them with more than 20 people on there.
Well, the Econ Club does it now, Zoom, and they've got about 70 on there.
Wow.
Be this big.
That's good. Poor old Lyle, he's up there trying to get Bob on there. We can wait a little bit longer for Bob, and then we can go ahead and start.
We're close.
I'm drinking a Coca-Cola.
Nobody knows who Eric Clifford is?
Nope.
Does Eric want to say hi?
Eric Clifford lives on Belle Meade Boulevard. He's a fairly new resident.
Okay. Hi, Eric.
He's joined several meetings. BZ.
There he goes. Now he just unmuted himself.
Okay. For a second.
Hello, Eric.
Hey guys.
Hey, Eric.
Welcome, Eric.
I also have a 7-day beard growing, so I don't have my camera on either. But this
Steve
quarantine is interesting.
Steve Casey looks like an old Santa Claus.
I'm happy to show you my beard, but I don't know if y'all may judge me.
No judgment here.
Well,
Public Works may have a problem with that.
Lyle, what's the latest on Bob?
He is attempting to join again. I've resent him the link. He is also going to call in on the phone, so he's doing both.
All right. Well, it is 4:06. Larry, you all set?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. If you want to stand or you want to sit, Larry's got the flag for us behind him. So we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
And to the
Republic
which
stands
stands
one nation under God,
Under God,
with liberty and justice for all.
pretty good in unison, almost in unison.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Wednesday, May 20th meeting of the Belle Meade Commissioners. We'll open the public comments portion. Anybody from the public like to make any comments? We've got several people that would be from the public. Peggy, past mayor, may want to have some comments she wants to add. Eric might want some. The ladies from the newspaper might want to make some. Anybody else want to make any comments?
I'll thank the ladies from the newspaper for the nice article about Faith Family Medical Center. So thank you.
Good.
This is Eric Clifford. I'd like to make a couple comments. One, I want to thank everybody for the hard work that they do up at the city government. I've had the good fortune to attend a few meetings in person before COVID, and now with COVID, I've been able to attend the Zoom meetings, which has been extremely convenient and informative for me because I'm able to do it from work. Otherwise, I might not be able to attend. So thank you, Lyle, for coordinating all that. I've gotten to see firsthand the work that y'all are doing. Larry was out recently to my house, had a grinder issue, and he came out here and got it fixed promptly. And he did a great job not only fixing the grinder, but giving me the history of my property, which was incredibly informative. And I understand he's been tracking all the properties in the city with a database, and that he's looking to upgrade that. And so I was glad to hear that. It was very helpful for me to have all that past information. So I wanted to thank Larry for doing that. And then at the appropriate time, I wanted to just comment on the new tree ordinance. I've had a chance to attend the Historical Zoning Commission meetings as well as the BZA meetings, and feel like the Historical Zoning Commission's off to a good start. It's been fun to watch them kind of figure it out as they go, and it seems like they're doing what was intended, which is slowing down some of the spec building in town. So I commend them for the work that they're doing there. But then had some comments on the tree ordinance at the right time. We can talk through. I think there's a few things that can make Lyle's life easier if we include in there for, I think, what's the intended impact versus what's in there today, which I've shared with Lyle and another member of the tree committee, and was going to suggest that we either include those comments or maybe defer the final reading until we get some of those things figured out. So anyway, I'll step back from there, but thank you for all the hard work.
Thank you, Eric. We'll discuss that when we get to the tree ordinance. Lyle may have some comments he wants to make at that time too.
Okay.
Anything else from the public? With that, we'll close the public portion, and next item would be the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting. But before we do that, we'll have a voting by roll call in alphabetical order. And you need to remember this. Kathy, you will go first. Louise, you go second. I go third. Rusty goes fourth. And Bob goes fifth. And I'm just going to say roll call vote, all in favor of, and then we'll go from there.
We need to say our name.
Pardon me?
We need to say our name. And
say your name. Say your name.
Yes.
Just so that needs to be in the record anyway. So that.
Got it.
Okay. So first on the agenda is the minutes of the meeting. Do we have a motion to approve those? April 15th meeting.
I move that we approve the April 15th minutes as presented.
Rusty has made that motion.
Kathy will second.
Kathy seconds that motion. Roll call vote in order for approval.
Kathy Altburn, aye.
Louise Bryant. Louise Bryant, aye.
Jim Hunt, aye.
Rusty Moore, yes.
And Bob Weigel, we will have to vote with that, Bob. So that motion passes. The minutes pass. Go to the next item, Public Works Monthly Report. Larry Smith.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Larry Smith, City of Belle Meade. Monthly activity report. Anybody have any questions or concerns?
Well, since Bob's not on here, maybe I'll come up with something. You had a.
That's okay.
I'd like to ask this. I know we got Dylan and we got Nathan on there. Did they do a lot of the tree trimming themselves rather than just the park company?
Yes, sir. All three of us are involved. When we have something like that, we all three split off and are together on one large tree. A couple of places we all three were together. But yeah, it's a all teams on deck type of procedure. Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I noticed they did a lot of tree trimming.
Yes, sir.
Anybody have any other questions for Larry? Larry, on these overgrown grass things, who normally calls those in? Does the next door neighbor call in?
It varies, Mayor. Sometimes a resident will notify a commissioner. A lot of times I catch them while I'm riding, or my other guys catch it, or we have a citizen complaint. It's usually one of those options.
Okay. You might want to include that if it's a citizen complaint or whatever under the name. If you
yes, sir.
You just put your name or put a citizen's complaint on it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anything else from Larry on his monthly report? Next item, and I'll do an introduction here because I guess you could say I had a conflict of interest, but this next one is my next door neighbor, Mr. Will Cheek, has requested that the city remove portions of the old sidewalk that are in the right of way in front of his property. I've been trying to get him to do that for the last, maybe 15 years. And for the first 10 years, he said, I just want to get the city to repave that. Well, it's only a section of 100 yards and it doesn't go anywhere. So I refused that, but we were out in his garden the other day talking about the sidewalk, and he said, I wanted to be I've been the last sidewalk in Belle Meade, but no longer am I the last sidewalk in Belle Meade. So can you arrange to get that taken up? So I called Larry, and Larry and Beth got a bid together, put out a bid, and very surprisingly got a bid from Smith Landscaping Excavating for $3,500, it's 100 yards of sidewalk of removing the concrete, taking it off, putting down filler dirt and leveling it out, which I don't think I would do that. So we're going to have a party in Will T's front yard. So there'll be some wine. Laura Catherine, you can come over for the wine for his sidewalk that's being removed, if we can vote that in. So Director Smith and Beth recommend approval of Smith Landscaping to do this. And I think that Larry, didn't he say he could do this thing in a couple of weeks?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve getting this done?
I have a question. Do I do that after we approve?
No, ask it now.
So what prompted it to happen now if he's been bugging about this for years? Just because you...
He didn't want it. He said he was so proud of being the last sidewalk in Belle Meade. He said, so now he's not the last sidewalk in Belle Meade.
We've done other sidewalks?
So
Okay.
he said, we got all new sidewalks on Harding Place. And so he said, you can take this damn thing up. It's a real hazard. If y'all have looked at the sidewalk, it's cracked in pieces, but it's not but about 3/4 of an inch thick of concrete. So it's not as big a job as somebody might suspect it would be.
This is really the last? There are no remnants anywhere else?
Not that I know of. Not any that were done in the 40s or 50s.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
Just joined us.
It's awfully quiet.
I'll make a motion to approve, but I thought somebody else had a comment.
That was Kathy. He said Bob just came on.
Oh, okay, great. All right. This is Rusty. I make a motion that we approve the proposal for sidewalk removal at 712 Inquirer Avenue.
Is there a second?
I second.
Bob Weigel seconds. Rusty's forwarded. In order, vote for. All in favor say aye. Rusty? Not Rusty, excuse me. Kathy?
Kathy Altenburn, aye.
Louise Bryan, aye.
Jim Hunt, aye.
Rusty Moore, aye.
Bob Weigel, aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next item of business is approval of the Belle Meade street light fixture and mast arm. Beth may have some comments. I have some comments. I think there were very positive reaction to the street lights and the mast arms. We've just found out that the cost of this is going to be a little bit more than we expected, like $3,000 per month in addition to what we're currently paying. We feel like that they can't do a great accounting on it, on what's happened in the past. So we're going to probably put together a little small group meeting with NES and trying to get this thing. We don't have a lot of the records we would need to see what the past history has been on why we got to this point, because supposedly this was being financed over a period of about 20 years, 20 to 30 years. And
It's been close to 30. It was done in the early 90s.
We assumed that period of financing was over and this would start a new period for financing. And that does seem like an awful lot to increase it by. It would be $36,000 a year. They said, oh, but you get a $300 credit, which would be a $3,600 credit per year. So we just think if they can't show us what we were paying, I think that's going to be some contentious moments. So we're going to get together. Anybody who wants to work with me and Beth on meeting with NES to go through that. Louise, you may want to do that to try to get them to be more forthcoming with what's happened in the past. If they can't produce any records as to why we were paying X and why it's now going to be Y, I think we've got some room for argument. So,
but I guess I'm confused. We don't know what we've paid, or we thought it all?
Well, we know what we were paying. We didn't know. We just didn't know. We didn't get a breakdown of what we were paying.
Right. The monthly bill, Kathy, just says investment charge. That's what it's always said. And the cost of, paying for the fixtures and NES being on call to repair the street lights and things like that. But there's no breakdown. And I was kind of shocked that we weren't going to get any reduction in the current investment charge with this, with the new fixtures. They were just going to add on the cost of the new fixtures to the current charge, which is kind of confusing. So I told Jim we need to meet with them and ask them to break it down and find out what. But today we're just approving the design that we want. Once they know what fixture we want, they can get exact pricing. Right now, it's just a ballpark number.
But we have to do something at some point because we can't.
We have to because they have nothing is in stock anymore. They have no fixtures to replace what we've got up there.
So that's correct. We'll have to do something. The question is, we lose our negotiating power if we just say, let's go ahead and do it and do it at there, where we might be able to find out that they don't really have any records to substantiate why we're paying what we were paying or what we were paying, why we were paying it. So, there would be some alternatives. There could be that we could buy the equipment, get them to install it. We don't know what that would cost either, but there are some other options that we could look at. But I think the main thing is to get them just to give us a detail of what the current accounting is. So, yeah.
Jim, this is Rusty. So I have just a couple of comments. I've been looking at these light poles driving down the boulevard the last few weeks. And I think that this light fixture design is great. I went by today and looked at it. I think it looks tremendous. I do see why 30 years ago we did the wooden arms to hold it, because you've got the wooden poles, and our poles are pretty full of stuff, so they're not terribly attractive. So I was a little concerned that going with these metal arms might add just another degree of maybe too much to the poles, and where you've got wood and then the wood. But I understand the wood cannot be replaced, and that over time, over the next few years, as poles on the boulevard have to be replaced, they're being replaced with the metal poles.
Mm-hmm.
And Larry pointed out to me today there are already several. I know of one. And so I do think this metal arm and this light fixture is going to look really good, particularly over time as we add these metal poles. So I know we've got two things we're talking about, but if the first thing we're talking about is just, do we like this fixture? I like it.
Beth, do we know if any of the what the different prices are on the different options? Are there price differences? Do we know anything about that?
No, not at hand. I mean, there's different skirt options that, we looked at the retreat, and different shapes of the light bulb. This is the one you picked at the retreat as the most attractive one. And there's a limited number that NES can stock.
Okay.
So we didn't have a lot to choose from, but if you want to go back to the drawing board and look at other ones.
No, I don't want to go back to the drawing board. Of course not. I just didn't know if we had any other information which we should base our decision. No, I'm fine with this. I think it looks very, very, very handsome. Very good.
Okay.
Beth, let me ask you a question.
Yeah, it's
Sure.
Bob. Bob, introduce yourself.
Yeah. It's Bob. I am late getting on, but I'm here.
Good.
How many light fixtures are we talking about to start with?
114.
It's a lot of fixtures. 114.
Right.
Well, that's Bob. You divide that by two. I think the number of poles that would be mounted on. There'd be two on each pole, right, Beth?
Correct. Yes, that's correct.
Okay. I know they have no more fixtures of the ones we have in existence now, but that doesn't mean every time one goes out that they can't repair the one that's there. I mean,
they can repair it. We agreed that they would replace it with just the standard metal arm and bulb that you see on all the other streets around. The standard NES light. It was not going to be anything fancy, because they don't have any of the ones that we have now in stock. So
I know I'm not talking about replacing. I'm talking about repairing it, though. They don't need to replace the fixture with a fixture. Just because it's out doesn't mean we have to take it down and put another fixture up there. I'm just saying.
But they can't even replace if the light goes out now. They don't even have any more of the light fixtures to replace it with. So
I'm
we
not talking
either,
about replacement.
Larry, why don't you?
Yes, sir.
Are you listening?
I'm not sure what you're
Why don't
asking.
you explain?
Yes,
what-
sir. The ballast and the control parts in those lights can no longer be gotten.
It's not just the light itself.
The way the fixture is made is so outdated, they no longer carry the parts. And you can't even, we've tried to match up. I worked with NES extensively trying to find something that would work with it. You cannot match, there's no way to match that fixture or even repair it, Bob. They've repaired them. We had three or four here in the shop that we had been here for years. We even gave them those. Right now, I think we've got 3 lights that are out on the boulevard as we speak. And we haven't done anything with those yet. And hopefully we get something going and we can get those done, in this new lighting.
Well, thank you, Larry. As far as I'm concerned, they just need to give us some more details so we can make a decision. It's ridiculous the way the little bit of information they've given us on
I'll have to say I'd have to pick that. That's not really what that. I asked Beth to put a rush on them to find out what we were going to be doing, so they didn't have a lot of time to put this together. I would like to say though, I think it's important that we vote on. We're not saying spend any money or buy these things. We're just saying these are the ones that we would like to do, so that if we can work everything out, we can say, okay, guys, go ahead and order, and we know what we want, rather than waiting to the next meeting and doing all that. So I think that's the reason we'd like to go ahead and vote on this one way or the other.
Before I say yay or nay, I would like to say, do we know how the prices of the one we like? We like the beauty of it. Do we know how it compares with some others before we say yay on it?
No, we're going to do that. I think when we look at everything, Bob, I would like to. I mentioned to Beth today, why don't we put those lights out for bid? The problem with that is then you've got NES who's going to have to be involved in that process somewhere, and that's where they can rip us. So we want to make sure that if we don't want to do anything that's going to really upset them at this point, they carry the big stick. So,
yeah,
but we want to negotiate fairly, and I think that we can do that.
I guess I don't know if this is what Bob is thinking, but if the thing we like the best, the Cadillac is, and then the Toyota is half the price, and we think it's good enough. Would we change our minds if there was a huge difference in the price? Is that what you mean, Bob?
Yes, I do mean that.
Okay. So, of course we'd love the prettiest, best one, but is it a huge difference or not? I guess we just don't have that data.
Peggy, you want to unmute and talk about that for a minute? What did you all go through on that? Were you involved with the lights being put up?
Am I muted or not? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I think they were Mr. Crabtree's own design.
Oh, let's blame it on Bruce. Okay.
Oh, that's true. He's right.
Yeah, we can see you now.
You can see me now?
Yeah, don't do anything. You don't want to be
standing up because my back's hurting. I'm standing up. Is that okay?
You're just seeing your chest. There you go.
Okay. You can see my shirt?
Yeah, it's nice.
All right. Well, I can't see anything except I can see who's talking. Okay. Peggy, so do you have any comments about them though, about the boulevard itself? Your thoughts on lights? I know you hadn't seen all this detail, but you think it's time to change?
I think it's time to have lights on Belle Meade Boulevard that are readily available when we need them.
Good comment. Good comment. Well, have we discussed that enough? Any more comments?
This is Rusty. Just one comment. I'm not sure that of the things that we are looking at to choose from, that there's going to be a lot of difference in the price. Because the base fixture is pretty much the same. It's just the skirt that goes around it, or no skirt. And I can't imagine that's going to be a lot of difference in price. I just tried to look it up, and I don't see that there's a lot of difference, but I can't get exact prices. So, but the question, I guess, is that we're all asking is, are there other models that we could be looking at that are
Not necessarily
from
ones
this
that
same
NES,
company.
not necessarily ones that NES makes available.
Right,
Okay.
right.
I think if you could, I think we will get into that when we meet with NES, and I'd like to do that as soon as we possibly can. And Rusty, if you want to be involved, there's no reason we'll
I'm
have to
happy
probably
be
have.
involved in that.
We may have to have a Zoom meeting to do it, but that may be okay too.
Well, I'm happy to be involved in trying to work that out with NES. And if
Okay.
you're ready for a motion, I'm on a roll. I'll be glad to make it.
All right, go ahead.
All right, so I make a motion that we approve the design of the light fixture for the street lights on Belle Meade Boulevard, understanding that we are approving the design but not authorizing the purchase yet.
I second that.
Motion made. Who was this? Who was the second? I can't see
Louise
anybody.
Bryan seconds.
It was Louise. Motion made and seconded. All in favor say aye. Roll call.
Kathy Altenburn, aye.
Louise Bryan, aye.
Jim Hunt, aye.
Rusty Moore, aye.
The
Bob Weigel. I talked at the same time somebody else. Bob Weigel, aye.
Okay, motion passes. Beth, can you try to set up some kind of, I guess, a Zoom conference call or something?
Yes, I will. I'll work on that.
Okay, great. Thank you all. Next item is the National Public Works Week. We've got Nathan and Dylan on the line, and you all can point your phones at your faces and unmute, and I can't see anybody. It doesn't make any difference. But I would like to say that we, in recognition of the Public Works staff for National Public Works Week, I want to thank you guys for being the best public works department in the state of Tennessee, maybe even greater than that. You all have been just super especially doing everything we've had going on at the same time here. So I want to personally thank all of you. You all are great. And I want to let anybody else make any comments they want to.
I want to clap for them and say thank you for a great job. Right after the storm, I drove down Belle Meade Boulevard, and there was Larry and the whole team already hard at work. So thank you, thank you.
Well, you think we could all be unmuted and clap, and so they could hear that? I'll do that. Thank you, guys. I understand y'all have a little luncheon tomorrow that nobody is invited to because it's kind of a virtual lunch. But anyway, that's okay.
Thank y'all.
Virtual lunch. Give me a piece of that pie. Okay.
My dogs thought we were clapping for them, so they've come to join me.
Again, thank you guys. Y'all are just great. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank y'all.
We'll move on to city services, Chief.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
You've already done your weather forecast, so you can move on past that.
All right. Absolutely. I hope you all had a chance to look over the monthly report. Are there any specific questions about anything?
I bet you Bob Weagle's got some. I've got some comments that it looks like that during this COVID-19 that there's been a lot less traffic activity, but the mileages haven't changed.
Yes, sir, that's correct. We, like many other law enforcement agencies, scaled back some of our more minor traffic contacts with citizens, intervening in egregious acts that would cause a huge public safety issue. But we are still out patrolling. We are still doing stationary radar posts so that we're visible.
Chief? What are offense reports written that you did have 10 of those versus 21, 34, 31 during previous months?
Yeah.
What is an offense report?
An offense, typically it could be, we've had some fraud cases come in. Some of those might be reflected specifically.
All right, so these are going to be.
Yeah, those.
I got you.
Yeah.
only comments that I say, this is Bob Weigel, is that the only big variance was the house checks, about half as much as what it's been the last couple of months.
Yes, sir. A lot of people not
reason for that.
yeah, some of them not traveling like they usually do. Spring break, we usually have a good amount of house checks that occur. We see those start coming usually into May through the summertime, and I think the impact of travel has just had more folks at home.
So it's primarily when the people are out of town is when you do the house check.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Okay, I got you. That's the only thing I got.
Okay. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Anything else for Chief?
No.
Chief, a great job. Great job you've done too. I think keeping those patrol people happy is enough. You know, I'm seeing they're getting a lot of contacts with the police recently. I think they're doing a fantastic job.
Well, thank you. We do appreciate y'all's support and appreciate you saying so.
Can you give us an update on Operation Blue Light? How many people are involved in it and how active everyone's been?
It's we've got 10 participants that are signed up.
Mm-hmm.
Not aware of anyone using us. Most of the folks commented that they wanted to be signed up in case their normal, for us to act as a safety net, that a lot of them had resources, but in case things changed and a resource couldn't make it, we could get right to it. So, and I put in the last newsletter to, remind folks that, the emergency is still going on while the city of Nashville, Davidson County is trying to open up more. There are still dangers out there, still threats. We're still, we have a pretty extensive plan, has City Hall, and I won't go into any detail. Beth wanted to comment on it, but, we are making preparations, getting PPE in to open up City Hall so we can open back up the court system. So, but yeah, so far, 10 applications on file.
That's great. That's great.
Nice.
Anything else for Chief? All right, Larry, you're back up again. Health and sanitation.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. I want to
ask. Can I ask the chief a question before we move on?
Yes, go ahead.
Since our receipts were down so much in April, and I assume they will be for May, does that end up making any much difference? Is that most of that just pass through us, Beth or Chief? The police, the receipts from the police?
The receipts?
Yeah.
We accounted for that we'll account for that this year when we do our budget amendments, and then hopefully after the first of the new year, we'll pick back up again. It'll be a little slow during the summer, I think, but traffic is increasing, so I'm assuming the police will be making a few more stops, maybe not up to their usual amount, but
that's a big drop for us, but it's not over much time, I guess.
Yeah.
Just a couple of
right.
months. Okay, thank you.
Hey, may I ask a question?
Yes, Bob?
Yes. Beth, is that $5,000 that we received, is that an indication of the amount of activity that month, or is that an indication of the amount of activity the previous month? I don't know.
Page are you on, Bob?
I'm on page 15.
Okay.
At the bottom.
Yes, sir.
Bottom line.
That is the amount of receipts that we collected for the month of April. That's correct.
So it basically lags a month behind. No, that is April. Okay. So it is the citations are is that most of that money, since we didn't have traffic court, came from previous months then, right?
Some from previous month, probably a lot from March too, when they stopped writing so many tickets. So say from the last 60 days or so.
Okay. Well, that's fine. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I've just walked away to get my TENS unit. Everybody know what a TENS unit is? That's the electronic.
I do. Yeah.
That's your electronic instrument that you put on when you got something aching, electronic. I'm aching right now. So let's see. Anything else from Larry? Lyle.
Well, it's actually Larry hadn't done it yet. So.
Oh, you did. Oh,
No, we were,
the question
they
was
were
back
asking
to
the
the
chief
police.
questions.
That's
They were
right.
asking the chief
That was a
questions.
short report.
The service call records are as they are. We did, I will want to go ahead and tell Bob, next month we'll have a larger report. We had quite a few pumps due to the outage and stuff. So we had one point, we had 11 pumps we had to pull, and it was all storm related from the storm. And the next day we had.
And this month?
It'll be
You talking about this month?
It'll be on next month.
Wow.
I just want to give you a heads up on that. And the guys have done, I do want to say both my guys have stepped up to the plate, have done excellent during all this, and I want to commend them myself. So, but any questions on this report?
Have we swallowed up any inventory on the pumps?
We have used a few E1s, and they did do a quick turnaround on the rebuilds. So I've got a shop full. I've got a lot of rebuilds right now. I only have a few new E1s, and we're still, because of that extra pallet of Myers that we had, we still got about 13 or 14 Myerses left, and we're in good shape on them. We should be okay on Myers, and we're going to see how we are on the E1s. We've got plenty of rebuilds for replacements at this point, but not very many new ones.
Do you think the coronavirus got to the pumps too?
No, sir. No, sir. It's just the weather and storm and so forth.
Thank you, Larry.
You're welcome, sir.
Larry, anything else?
That's all I have. Anybody have any questions?
Okay. Lau, you're up.
Building permit summary report. Any questions I can answer?
Lau, at last night's BZA, I was kind of surprised to hear two of the BZA members talk about one morning to make sure they understood how the HZC and the BZA related. Look at Doug shaking his head. Yeah. Okay, Doug, I'll let you answer that one.
No, I'm gonna let Lyle answer that one.
Well,
I think there are some areas of overlap and maybe potential confusion, but Lyle and I feel like right now that it's working pretty well, and that the people who are affected seem to understand the different jurisdictions of different boards. So.
Well, so everybody who wasn't there, the question comes up that if the HZC makes a decision, does that affect the decision made by the BZA? And that they're absolutely totally different. And, right. And they really do. They need to understand the difference of when something goes before the HCC, what it does, what it doesn't do, what the BZA does and doesn't do. Lau, you want to make any further comments on that?
No, I mean, they're two separate entities. The HCC looks at design ratio and scale. It's somewhat challenging getting through that. And then you go to the BZA for something that may be non-compliant or a swimming pool. So the only time you would go to the BZA after going through design on a older home would probably be for an addition that would be maybe outside the building envelope, but they're two separate entities.
Oh, good. I think it was a good question for us to entertain. I wish they had gone that far and realized that. I thought that we won't criticize the BZA, but it's important to know what they're challenged with too, because they were asking good questions of, if the HCC has gone through all this process, why are we doing it again? And it's not the same thing.
Right.
Lyle, I will say this. Let me give kudos to Lyle, because I was watching that meeting yesterday, and I really think that he may decide to have all of his meetings on Zoom, because it is so much more informative when he can draw pictures. He can do the things he can annotate these slides. He can do everything with this. And I think everybody really gets a much greater picture of that, both on BZA and the HCC. I'm very impressed. I was asking Beth earlier, do you think that Terry Franklin could have walked his way through this? Look at Larry over here. I was looking at your comments. That Terry might have struggled with this. He'd have said, just get it done. Just get it done. Okay. But anyway, Lyle, beautiful job. And I think that you want to make any comments about how using this technology is helping you?
Well, architects in other states can just pop their plans up and we can share the screen back and forth. And like you said, we can annotate and zoom in and explain things. It's great. You don't have to make an appointment with this office. You can just call me and send me a Zoom invitation. And it's really a good thing. It's one of the few good things that's going to come out of this.
All right. Anything else from Lyle? Appreciate the good job you're doing. I went to Home Depot today and there were about 500 people out there without masks on buying. Looked like they were buying enough lumber to build a house. So there must be something going on.
I'd like to add one more comment here on page 29, the permit totals January through April. We're down, but that's really not due to the economy. That is due to the HCC doing it. We've got about 5 or 6 homes that'll be coming through the HCC, and that number will come up. We actually last week, May 12th, we had 2 homes pass the HCC. So I would imagine they'll be pulling permits between now and the next commissioners meeting.
You'll have a blast off here pretty soon, won't you?
Yes, we will.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? In this May, I might have missed something in the different meeting formats. Remember the fence that was approved at 6 feet or the gate at 6 feet on
Yes.
Linwood, and we were going to write a letter or do something to try to say that we wanted to follow the rules. Did anything happen with that?
I think the time had passed where we could do that. I think they have 60 days. And by the time that we were going to, write a letter and get to that time had passed.
Okay. So it's going up. I
Kathy,
couldn't
I'll
tell what
jump
was
in on
going
that.
on when I drove by there. I couldn't tell what the
Kathy,
gate.
I'll jump in on that a little bit too. I talked with as a result of that retreat meeting, we talked with Lyle and Doug, and the time period that had been approved a lot longer ago than.
Okay.
Gotcha. But I think as a commission, have some responsibility to look at what Board of Zoning Appeals is doing, make sure we feel that they're adhering to the guidelines and that they're not maybe approving things that I just think we need to be attending those meetings as much as any of us can on maybe a rotating basis, just to look at what they're doing to make sure that the boards that we are appointing are following our guidelines.
I agree. Thank you.
Lyle, this is Bob.
Yes.
Even though we're 2.5 million down in total business year to date compared to last year, I've noticed that your permit fees are still holding strong. That's commendable.
Well, I wish I could take credit for that, but I can't.
Exactly.
That's just.
Well, you did. You recommended some changes on the permit fees that we have instituted over the last couple of years. You had a lot to do with it.
Well, thank you.
Well, kudos enough. All right, let's don't get everything go to our heads. We'll all be retiring next week. Waste collection, no matters. Are there any matters on waste collection? Beth, you may want to comment about about when all the frozen foods that were coming, unfrozen foods that were being trashed. That caused a little disturbance, but
the contractor did fine. Larry can probably address that. He was on the front lines with the dumpsters, but people did bring things down here as well as put a lot in their garbage cans at their back door. So there was a couple days where the contractor had to take some extra loads to the landfill. Isn't that right, Larry? You're muted.
Ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, there was quite a few days that we had that, about 3 days where it was a lot of extra garbage, and everybody's cans where normally they have two, they allowed 332 gallons. We had some people that had 5 or 6 cans. It's just, astronomical, and it really was a lot. So, but it's getting back to normal right now. But with everybody being home for COVID, there's more storage. People are cooking more at home and so forth.
Okay. Thanks, Larry. Thanks, Beth. Laura Catherine, how about you? What's going on in beautification?
Hi there. So we met on May the 11th via Zoom, and I think for our first Zoom meeting, it went really great. So the main things we talked about are fundraising for 2020 and then the master plan, which is not really technically a master plan. We're kind of maybe thinking about renaming it to just an enhancement strategy. With the 2020 fundraising, as of April 23rd, those are my latest numbers, we have received $46,905. Last year, at this date, we had received $51,175. Also, last year, we sent out the letters 3 weeks later. So we are behind. A lot of it has to do with COVID. Jim, you had sent an email about mailboxes and a suggestion that we, clean them and whatever. And actually, we sort of took that idea and ran with it. And we would like to do a push in the next month or so for mailbox plantings. That with for a limited time, with a donation, we will deliver a planting for your mailbox. So there'll be 3 levels. We're thinking about like a small annual around the base for your lowest level, a clematis or a mandevilla for the higher tier, and then for an extra $100, we will plant it for you. So the committee really seemed to get behind that. Thank you so much, Jim, for sparking that conversation. We're real excited. I'm reaching out to Creekside about, working with them to pick up the plants. We, of course, want to support our community businesses if we can. So that is going to be our push. Look for that in the next couple of weeks. And then the other thing we discussed is, like I said, this enhancement strategy. We will meet on the off month. So as you know, Series meets every other month. So the enhancement strategy meetings will go between them because our format for Series is that every subcommittee makes a report. Our big focus is that we want an identity for Belle Meade. So in the March meeting, when we laid out the plans for the city, we identified the areas of focus that we were going to have, and our biggest one, we all agreed, should be the entrance to Belle Meade from to the boulevard from Harding Pike. So the horses, all of that. And so what we're going to do is we'd really like to focus on the median. And we've discussed it in, I would say, the last 3 or 4 meetings. And so when the restrictions for COVID are lifted and we're able to meet with 12 or more, we're going to walk the boulevard. So we'll break it up into quarters is what we think. And we'll all meet at City Hall and ride together. And then we're going to walk each median and discuss the plantings, discuss the power lines, and really come up with a plan that will work in the long term. We've all agreed that planting trees and hoping they stay small or having NES, lock the top off so we don't hit the power lines is just not the ideal. And so we're real excited about thinking about new ideas. In addition, Gavin Duke is going to reach out to Mike Berkeley with Grow Wild. Hopefully we can get him to do a little bit of a consultation for us. We're really excited about that. We want to walk the boulevard first and just pack up what we know before we go to Mike, but we're very excited about that. And that's my report. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah, what, Jim?
I said you were frozen up there for a few seconds.
Oh, so sorry. Did you hear everything?
I think so.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
Laura Catherine, I think that all sounds great. It's very exciting. I just want to be sure that we keep in close contact anything that the series wants to do as this master plan starts to really get some legs and move faster.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are things that I think we should be aligned on as we just start to make decisions and start to make investments. And
Absolutely.
the selection committee's meeting next Wednesday, I believe.
Okay.
The first meeting, so things are really moving forward. Beth has put a lot of work into that, but I just would like to encourage, as we do, just keep for everyone to keep communicating.
Wonderful. Yes. Actually, Louise, we had discussed specifically working with you as you are focusing on walkability and all of these things. So we certainly want to be hand in hand with the master plan committee for the city, and then you as well for your specific initiatives. So
Right.
this is going to be most definitely a community involvement. Okay. We're really excited about it.
Good. Thank you so much, Laura Catherine.
Laura Catherine, it's Bob Weigel.
Hey, Bob.
Hey, I tell you what, you're gonna get me out of this house. I miss your enthusiasm and everything that you do when you make a presentation. I think you're gonna get me out of here quicker.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
I know your wife appreciates that too, Bob.
You're right there.
Louise, thanks for bringing up about the thanks for bringing up about the master plan. I was going to make a comment about it, but Louise and Rusty and Beth and Randy Gross and Jim Beckner are on the selection committee. Did I miss anybody, Beth?
Lyle.
Oh, Lyle. That's an important guy to have on there.
Mm-hmm.
And Lyle will be on the selection committee, which meets Wednesday. And then the steering committee, once that selection committee has been done, meet, I think, right after, was it July 1?
Right. That they meet after, because in June, you'll
but that's when you select them.
recommendation from the selection committee and approve the consultant.
So if anybody is worried about a time frame, it looks like that, sometime right after July 1st, we ought to be on the road to getting something done. So, and I think Randy's going to be a great addition too, Louise. He's got some real forward thinking ideas too.
Well, very experienced at exactly this. So we're in good hands, truly.
Good. Moving on with the agenda, city communications, no matters, financial statements. Lee?
Yes. You have the statements in front of you. Does anyone have any questions? Actually, I'd like to report something to you all that we sort of touched on previously, was the state shared revenue. I was a little concerned what it would be like once I got the detail. I got the detail today, and surprisingly, a happy surprise, it's what it pretty much was within 1,000 of March, the March deposit, and this is for the month of March. So it was a pleasant surprise.
Somebody was coughing when you said the amount.
Oh, pardon? It's within $1,000 of what we got in March.
Okay.
So, as I say, it was a very pleasant surprise.
Good.
But now this, of course, won't be on these statements. It'll be on the ones next month. But it was a good deposit.
Good. Anybody have any comments about the financial statements?
I do.
Bob, go ahead.
I wanted to ask the people that like Lee and Beth, have they noticed anything on the revenue side that has any negative effects that they think is because of the virus in this particular month? The year-to-date figures for April, especially the revenues. The only thing I'm seeing big is the state income taxes. I guess that's the Hall thing, isn't it?
Right, and we won't know that until July, Bob. That's just, educated guess.
Yeah, but do you see anything else that you can put a finger on that has already started to show a
I was
negative
gonna, I
thing
was
on.
going to ask how much lag is in that, because you got the liquor, you got the mixed drink tax didn't go down like I was suspecting, so it must be a lag in that.
Well, we just got today's deposit was for March.
Uh-huh.
The March collections.
March
The
collections,
state
right.
runs 2 months behind.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It must be so
So
that will
you're
go
looking
down,
at
I meant.
you're looking at February revenue on these states.
Right, that's what I thought. Okay.
So that was
Okay.
before we shut down.
What did March? Do you
Yeah.
remember what Marches look like?
Yeah, like I say, it was within about $1,000 of what.
That's what you were saying was
Yeah,
that.
yeah, pardon me,
Okay.
yes.
Well, April, it'll be April when I guess is when it will,
Right,
get that.
right.
Next month will be a full month of shutdown, and will give us a better indication of what.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll be sales tax and mixed drinks tax that will affect us the most.
Okay, and those are not huge numbers, so that's not going to make a big difference, I think, in our.
Let me also ask: are there any surprises as far as the numbers go for this particular month, year to date?
Not yet. No.
Not for me, no.
I know the revenue. I'm just looking at the revenues. It's quite a bit less than what we budgeted, but.
I think
But
if you look, Bob, I think if you looked
I think
over
that's
at
pretty much the whole tax thing, isn't it?
Pretty much, yes.
Half of it, you know.
Bob, if you look at page 35, the local government investment pool looks like their interest rate monthly average went from 1.37% to 0.85, and on a $6.8 million balance, that'll be a pretty big lick.
Yeah.
And you know, Bob, when I started here in November, it was almost 3%.
Yeah.
And just in that short of time, it's gone down to 0.85.
Yeah.
And our CD rate will begin to come down too. So.
Right.
But overall, we aren't Metro, and I've got a few comments to make if I can at this time. I sat in on a Zoom meeting yesterday with Jim Schulman, who's the vice mayor of the city, and he was making comments about the proposed budget. And as you all know, the mayor's projected has requested a 32% increase in property taxes, and that would keep from furloughing any employees and to help recover from the COVID extra expenses and the tornado, and to try to build up some kind of little bit of reserve. But they're in big trouble. I mean, and this will help. So I think we have to be, I won't say necessarily jumping up and down about it, but I think we're going to find it's probably necessary to keep Metro afloat. Kevin Crumbo, who is a Belle Meade resident, is the Metro Finance Director. Good guy. He's got his hands full, as the mayor does too. So they're trying their best to make this thing be have little impact on the city as possible. It'll have some definite effect on the residents, but you know, it's a big deal. It's a crisis budget. There's no discretionary spending in it, and I think that they're going to be working hard to overcome some past sins and to get us on the right track. Anybody have any comments? I'm just sort of repeating what Jim Schulman said. One of the things that I think we have to remember, if the council does not come up with a budget that is passed by the council, and it'll revert back to whatever the mayor's budget is. So I think we're looking at probably we're going to look at a pretty significant increase in property tax.
I had a question, Jim.
Yeah.
Did they address, I mean, Metro's not furloughing anybody, but so many companies across the board in Nashville have personally, I mean, they've had to furlough employees. Do they have a contingency plan where they could eliminate some staff? I just feel like the businesses that I've heard comments from healthcare to other things are just sort of up in arms that, you know, the property tax increase is going to be huge.
Yeah.
For these businesses that have already had to let go of all their employees. And I mean, everybody we know knows somebody has lost their job. or at least lost income.
Well, I think the city got a lot of criticism. I mean, the mayor's office got a lot of criticism, but unfortunately, if he really didn't have a lot of options. He really, I mean, he does have options just to do layoffs, but he's trying to keep his services the same as he had before. And when you start furloughing people at a city level, you really run into even bigger problems than if corporate does. I'm going to defend them somewhat. I'm going to pay my property taxes and move on. But I do think that you know, that those are past sins, and you really can't hardly you can't give Mayor Cooper. You don't want to blame him for that. So
no, and I mean, I feel bad for the guy. I mean, he walked into a mess. But you know, we're in
do you have any comments about that?
Oh, do I?
Yes, sir.
Well, I think that I have trouble understanding how we have so many more housing units in Metro over the last 5 years, and the values of those housing units have gone up, you know, tremendously, because you have so many places where there was one not very nice home, and now there are $2 million homes, and yet our tax base still doesn't seem to be supporting. So it's really a little bit hard to reconcile. But I'll tell you, I know the property tax is inevitable and necessary, because we do have to keep our city afloat.
Well, I agree with you. I think that next year is the reassessment,
reappraisal year. Yes.
I mean,
But the reappraisal is one thing, but I'm talking about additional housing units. I mean, if you just look at the 505 Tower downtown alone, that's a lot of housing units that have been added. Not about reappraisal, but just adding housing units in Metro, that all those housing units are paying taxes, but we still are not getting ahead on revenue. I would think we would almost have the opposite problem, is what to do with the revenue.
Well,
I have a problem understanding that too.
Well, have they started the actual collection of those taxes on those units now?
Oh yes, they've been collecting those for 2 years now. But just, you know, like I said, all over town there are new developments, and there, you know, a lot of these properties where there was one home, there are now two. But there are also just lots of developments where there are these, you know, townhomes. There might be 30 units in a complex. All those are new additional housing units to Metro that are now paying taxes that weren't paying taxes 3 years ago. It's really hard to understand how our collections aren't really advancing.
Well, you know, we could get Kevin to come to one of our meetings and talk about it. He would be glad to do it, since he's a resident of Belle Meade. So
I'd like to see that.
Okay.
And Jim, did they talk about trying to access some of the Music City Center surplus?
He didn't get into detail. You know, this is the vice mayor who basically doesn't communicate with the mayor directly on any of this stuff. He runs the council, so his job now is to take what the mayor has sent them and to make any adjustments to it and then send it back to the mayor. So he was just looking at general. But he's got 2 or 3 people who are working on their own budget. So we'll see what comes of that. It's really a little early on this, but it's a huge item for everybody. I mean, everybody's upset too. So nobody.
Jim, I think if Kevin would join a meeting, I think that would be tremendous and be a nice thing for us to offer to our residents, an opportunity to hear from him.
Maybe we could have him do a Zoom conference where we just let everybody come in and listen and do that. He might be he might even like that with maybe 3 or 4 people being able to ask questions. We need to manage it, because you don't know what's going to happen. Right. Good idea. Okay.
Great idea. Thanks.
I know Kevin real well, so I'll be glad to ask him, and we can go from there. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to make sure that I got in there about Jim Schulman, who's doing a good job, I think, as vice mayor, but who knows? Not as good a job as Louise is doing as vice mayor, but doing a great job anyway. Okay, the investment schedules. Real quick, Lee, on this lighting, I gave you. Did you build anything in the Capitol budget for the lighting? Is anything built into that? Are we looking at that as
No.
being a capital project or partially a capital project and mostly operating?
No, we did not build anything in the budget because we didn't know when we prepared the first draft. So
Okay.
maybe we'll know more between now and next month if we have a meeting with the finance people. Yes.
Okay, good. We've got invoices over 5,000. I think it's on the back side of it's on page 38. Is that just one invoice? Is that it?
One this time, yeah.
Wascon for $5,925.26. A motion to approve?
I'm on a roll today. I'll make a motion that we approve Rusty Moore.
Rusty Moore, what about a second?
I'll second.
Louise seconds.
Sure.
This is like Hollywood Squares. It's who's the first one to answer. Louise beat you by half a second.
We need buzzers.
So we have a motion. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Kathy Altenburn, aye.
Louise Bryant, aye.
Jim Hunt, aye.
Rusty Moore, aye.
Bob Weagle?
Bob Wiggle, aye.
All right, we have everybody. Wascon passes. They get paid. All right. Next item. Let me see if I can get my papers moved around. I need Beth over here to straighten my papers out over here. Facilities, no matters. Personnel, no matters. Moving into legislation. Ordinance 2019-11. Eric's still on there. An ordinance to amend the Title 12 of the Belle Meade Municipal Code and add a new Chapter 5 thereto, adopting the building regulations for the management and protection of trees on second reading. Lyle, do you have any comments to make before we consider a vote?
I do. Over the last couple of weeks, and I'm going to ask Eric to expand on this, but I've talked to Eric and he's brought up some very valid points. For instance, on a lot, let's just say there's 3/4 acres that's covered in trees, inundated with trees, based on the replacement ratio of 4:1. If you cut down a 16-inch tree, there may not be a need to replace that canopy on that lot. Conversely, across the street, there may be the same size lot with very few trees. So I think that's something we might ought to look at. Also, there's really nothing in here on the 12-504 for the exemptions as far as damage to property. Let's just say a monarch tree or a huge tree is the roots are bringing up the sidewalk, the patio, driveway, or coming into the foundation of the home. And I think that needs to be addressed. And Eric is the one that brought this up, and I think it's some good suggestions.
Bob, your first comment on the replacement of trees, where is that? What section does that go in?
It's page 41. It's 12-508.
Thank you. I see it.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a schedule there.
Yeah, I see the ratio there. I was looking ahead of that. Okay.
Lyle, has everything that you've discussed and Eric discussed in these marked through items?
No, they are not. These will be 2 additional items that I guess should be added to the exemption, 12-504.
Well, can we, and I'll ask Doug this, can we go ahead and add those 2 and then vote, or do we need to wait and vote on the final? I'd like to go ahead and do it. Doug?
May I speak to that, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
The version of the ordinance that passed first reading, as you probably know, is the portions of the documents you're looking at that are not either marked through or indicated for an amendment. So these changes, which are already on the document, which Lyle and I discussed in November or December or January at some point, those have not been adopted either. So all we're looking at, so what you would do if you decline to adopt this tonight would be to
Is Doug thinking or is he frozen?
He's frozen.
Uh-oh. Can y'all remind us about the, I thought we were worried about spring break and then we wanted to have public hearings to explain all this. Are we bypassing all that by doing this on second?
We had public hearings.
It's been published. Lyle,
We've already done the public
It's been
hearing.
published, okay.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I just can't remember the timeline. Thank you.
Looks like Doug hadn't moved since.
He's gone.
Doug, if you can hear us, you might want to close out and go back to the link that was originally sent to you.
That's what he just did, I think. Yeah.
He did.
Okay.
And for a small fee, I will let you in.
Boy, that's a feeling of power, isn't it? The Zooms are.
Yeah.
Beth, you've lost your title now. Is Zooms are.
Okay, I'll hand it over.
He was in the middle of something that sounded brilliant.
I guess, are we under, I mean, do we feel like we've got to approve it on second reading tonight if we're having these other new things added in?
What I think is, what he's got in this, what have we got in this marked up would be what we would vote on, plus anything that Lyle wants to put in there. Is that right? Is that right, Lyle? With the things that you wanted to add?
Yes, and I really wanted to hear from Eric.
Okay, Eric, unmute.
Looks like Doug is back in.
Let's hear from Doug procedurally.
Yeah, okay, Doug?
He's connecting to audio.
Hey guys, sorry, I lost my internet. Can you hear me now again?
Yeah, we can hear you. You were frozen. We just sat there. We just looked at you, staring.
That's not a happy thought. I got my internet connection here, my Wi-Fi connection.
Pick up where you left off.
Anyway, to make this an orderly process, we would have to know what the 2 or 3 additional things that Lyle and Eric discussed are, and exactly what they are. So I would say you would move adoption of the ordinance on second reading, move the amendments as reflected on Amendment 1, which you've been distributed, and then and I think rather than make it a three-tiered thing, then say, and in addition to that, the following changes to section whatever they would be, like
507 to 508.
Okay.
Oh,
And add the
504. Yeah.
504.
Yeah.
If you think that can be made clear, I was not aware of the additional changes, so I would have been glad to draft that up for you. But that's
Well, how do you want to handle it? I know you'd like to get this behind you, move on.
Well, it's only been 3 years. Another short stint won't hurt me.
Well, enough trees came down during the storm.
Yes.
That takes care of some of that, doesn't it?
I mean, whatever, in my opinion, whatever we need to do to get this passed in order to at least start enforcing some of this. I know they're taking a lot of trees down on the corner of Iroquois and Jackson. I've had a lot of calls on that. So, I mean, if this can be passed and we can add these 2 items to it, if that would make this enforceable.
Well, do you have those in some kind of formal reading that we vote on?
I do not.
Lyle, this is Rusty. I was listening about the 5.04 and I've written out a sentence, and see if this is what we're talking about. You would add an item 5 to 5.04 exemptions that would say the removal of trees causing damage to public facilities or improvements to the subject property.
I think that's clear and good. That's good.
This is all being recorded too, so that will help.
Rusty, do you mind saying it again?
Not at all. So adding an item 5 to section 504 that states the removal of trees causing damage to public facilities or improvements to the subject property. So that would pick up your sidewalks or anything that was in the public area. And then it would also pick up anything like the improvements, like a home, a garage, things like that, driveway.
Lyle, was there anything else? Was that it?
No, the other one, and
I
Rusty,
thought-
we'll use your wordsmithing here. In a nutshell,
okay.
When you have a lot that is inundated with plenty of trees, does that ratio apply to that lot as opposed to a lot that doesn't have as many trees? So the ratio we have is from 4 to 15 inches, the ratio is 2 to 1. And from 16 to 30-inch tree, the ratio is 4 to 1. How do we determine if a lot has more than adequate tree canopy?
Well, I don't know how, or members of the board don't know how big a difference that would be. Maybe if you adopted the change to 12-504 and all the other changes as shown on Amendment 1, and then came back with an amendment to, would it be 12-506, where you're talking about that other concern?
508.
508, rather, 508.
Does that work for you, Lyle? Would that work for you? Would that let you be a little enforceable with this?
Sure.
Okay.
So Mr. Mayor, excuse me.
Go ahead.
Proper motion would be a motion to adopt the ordinance on second reading, and then someone would then move to adopt the amendment number 1, and include in that the changes that Commissioner Moore has made to 12-504. That is, the section would be also have a subsection 5 for removal of trees causing damages to public works or property. Rusty, is that what you said?
Yes. Public facilities or improvements to the subject property.
And then get a vote on the amendment, and then get on the vote on the ordinance as amended is the proper way to do it. It's a 2-step process.
Okay.
If that's clear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, guys, this is Eric. Just one other thing that you might consider.
Rusty, stand a little closer to your microphone, Eric.
Oh, sorry about that. Can you hear me better now?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. One other thing you might consider, in the same way you have an exemption for corner lots or at least to be considered by the BZA, there are certain circumstances where this ordinance reads where it defines clear cutting as within the building envelope. And I know there are certain lots that don't have a building envelope because of the way their lot is shaped, and that would preclude the cutting of a tree without construction. And I think that might be the other area that could be approved. And I can give you the section if you want to look at that.
Give us the section, Eric.
Okay.
Rusty Moore.
So 12-512 says tree removal in cases where no building permit is required, references section, let's see, 12-509, clear cutting. So you go back to 12-509, and it reads, clear cutting is defined as removal of trees outside of the approved building area, which includes the building envelope. And I think the intent is, you don't want folks just clear cutting for new construction, but this specific one we're addressing now is for people that already are homeowners and may have a tree that would be outside of a building envelope. For example, someone who has a short backyard, let's say 20 feet, and the building envelope starts, I think, at 60 feet or something like that. That would be where this ordinance, or where this section gets, requires amending. if I'm reading that right.
Well, what do you need in order to put some guts in this for you to enforce immediately? Just the changes that we've got here, plus Rusty's amendment, and then we work the other two and add those as amendments later.
Yes, that would work.
Okay.
I think it's hard to address that last concept in the setting at this meeting setting.
I do too. Eric, if you could formalize that, wordsmith that back and get it to Lyle so we can present that at next month's meeting to get that included. Rusty, you want to make a motion for what you've written is, we'll get that.
Did I understand? Yes, Mayor, thank you. Do I understand right, Doug, that we need to first make a motion to approve the ordinance on second reading and then a motion to amend?
Yeah, make a motion to approve the ordinance on second reading, get a second, and say, I'd like to move an amendment. The amendment would be this document that's been entitled.
Okay. I was thinking of it backwards.
Plus your change to 12504. Get a vote on the amendment, then get a vote on the ordinance as amended, and then you're home.
Okay. I make a motion to approve ordinance 2019-11 on second reading. Louise Bryan.
Is there a second?
Second.
Who was that, Bob?
Bob Weagle.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Roll call.
No.
No.
Now move the amendment. Move the amendment, Rusty.
Now, I would like to make a motion that we amend this ordinance in the amendment that has been presented to us today, as well as adding to section 12504 and paragraph 5 that states the removal of trees causing damage to public facilities or improvements to the subject property.
Now, get a second.
Second, Louise Bryan, seconds.
Motion made and seconded. So we have two items. We have
the same item. Now you get a discussion.
It's the amended and it's the approval of the ordinance.
No, now get a discussion and a vote on the amendment.
And the ordinance.
Then you adopt the amendment, then the ordinance has amendment.
All right, discussion.
So are we did this cover it in what Rusty said, everything we need to have happen today?
No, everything has to happen today. Yes, what we're going to come back with another amendment next month. That will be the other items. Is that right, Doug?
Well, you would have to have a two readings process.
Yeah,
you're going to get an ordinance. You're going to get an ordinance today.
Yeah, got you.
Further amendments would have to be like a new ordinance, a new amendment. Right now, you're just discussing and voting on Rusty's proposed amendment. Okay.
Or is there further discussion?
Are we feel good that all of this is happening during COVID when, it's a crazy time for people and that this is going to be okay communicated on the other end? I just don't,
I mean, I feel like we gave this an extra 60 days, and we also sent out an email notice saying that there's some important legislation going on. I mean, I did think it was too soon to do it during spring break, but we've had I feel comfortable with this. I do.
It's just, everybody's been distracted and maybe not
I know.
paying attention.
I agree.
Communication, we've been criticized so much for in the past when we feel
it's been in the newsletter, Kathy.
Yeah, it has.
Several times.
Yeah.
And this is Rusty, and I would just comment that we do have, with a lot of the development going on, and as things get approved, we need this tree ordinance, and I think we've recognized that for a number of months. So I think getting something in place is important to give Lyle something
That's
to
fair.
hang his hat on.
All right, we have a motion with an amendment. We've had discussion. Any further questions? All in favor, say aye.
I have one last question. So I understand sorry.
What are you fingering me for now?
At least it was my index finger, Mayor. The thing is, now you need to get a vote on the ordinance as amended.
I thought that's what I was doing.
No, you just got the amendment. You approved the amendment. Now you've got to get the ordinance as amended. Trust me, the way it's done, I swear, under Robert's rules. So now go to vote on
Don't,
I
don't
believe
forget roll call.
Roberts was obviously a very good friend of yours.
He was a military man. He was a military man, Jim, not a lawyer. That's why it's such a problem.
Yeah.
Did Eric have a question that got cut off?
No, Eric got his answer. It's going to be in what he will be proposing for an actually. It's not actually amendment, but it's got to go through 2 readings. But
It would be it's a new ordinance.
A new ordinance, okay.
At least we know what's needed. If we need to get it in language, we can make sure we know what the language says. It's just too hard to do this on the fly.
I agree. Yeah.
Okay. So now you need to vote on the ordinance as amended, Mayor, then you're home.
All right. Everybody understand where we are?
Yes, sir.
Actually, I've got a quick question. So we're adopting Rusty's language. Sorry, this is Eric Clifford. Sorry.
Yes.
We're adopting Rusty's language, and then I'm going to work with Lyle on this language that I mentioned. And then what about the ratio of trees to?
That was the other thing. That was the other thing that Lyle was going to be.
Okay.
That's the 2 items that you were going to bring back to the next meeting.
Got it. Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
You all include me in these work sessions. I'll try to help you.
All right. Everybody understands. We need to take a vote here pretty quickly. So everybody know what we're voting on? We're voting on, am I going to say this correctly, the ordinance and with the amendment?
Yes. Yes.
All right. We have a roll call vote. All in favor, say aye.
Kathy Altenburn, aye.
Louise Bryan, aye.
Jim Hunt, aye.
Rusty Moore, aye.
Bob Weigel, aye.
All right. Passes. Whew. You got to work it. You got something to work with now, Lyle.
Well, 3 years and
All
counting.
right. Yeah. And we expect to see more of you on this too. You and Eric too. Okay. Next ordinance 2020-1 budget appropriations for fiscal year 2020 and 2021 on first reading. That will be, what page is that now?
47.
47.
27, okay. So on 27, 28, if anybody, 37, 38, has anybody got any comments?
47. 48.
47.
I'm throwing these things on the floor. I've got them. These are the things that we discussed in our work session. Beth, you want to make any comments about things that might be worthy of changes?
At this point, no. We'll just have to see, like I said, if the NES issue might cause us to change something in the next year's budget, but I don't have anything. Lee, do you have any comments?
I don't. I know we discussed it pretty thoroughly in our workshop, so I don't have any changes.
Mayor, this is Rusty Moore. I would then make a motion that we approve this ordinance on our budget on first reading.
Motion made to approve ordinance 2020-1 on first reading. Is there a second?
I'll second it, Kathy Altenburn.
Kathy Altenburn, second.
I'll say thanks. I would say thank you to Beth and Lee too for doing such a good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? No further discussion. We'll take a roll call vote. All in favor of ordinance 2020-1, say aye.
Kathy Altenburn, aye.
Louise Bryan, aye.
Jim Hunt, aye.
Rusty Moore, aye.
Bob Weigel, aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Ordinance 2020-2 fix the tax rate for fiscal year 2020-2021 on first reading. I think there's been a lot of discussion about this, and I think the discussion is that the tax rate would likely stay the same 30 cents. That's what we're, now Beth, give me the time frame when this has to be submitted.
You have to approve a tax rate before June 30th, before your fiscal year end. However, it can be amended anytime before you send out tax notices to the
Yeah, I
public.
think Schulman said by the 1st of October, right around the 1st.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Is there discussion on this? There are going to be people asking us what we're going to do, and our rate becomes a smaller percentage of the metro rate when it finally gets published. Anybody want to talk? It won't look like a tax decrease, but it will certainly look like it makes our tax rate look a lot less, or more minor, I guess.
So what is the net effect? And that's what people want to know. Are the Belle Meade taxes going up too?
There will not. Our Belle Meade taxes will not go up if we do. If we continue to accept this.
Okay. Keep them the same as they were this year.
Yeah.
Last year, or whatever. Okay.
Is there a motion on ordinance 2020-2 to accept on first reading, the tax rate, the tax letter that's attached?
I make a motion to accept, to fix the tax rate for fiscal year 2020-21 on first
Rusty
reading.
Moore seconds.
Louise first and Rusty second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Roll call vote.
Kathy Altenburn, aye.
Louise Bryan, aye.
Jim Hunt, aye.
Rusty Moore, aye.
Bob Wiggle, aye.
Bob, we're doing this in alphabetical order if you didn't figure that out. If you weren't on the call when we decided it was alphabetical, we're not just looking at you last. You're last because you're
You
last.
always did. I'm always last.
That's what I didn't want you to think. Okay. First reading passes. Ordinance 2020-3, amending the section 12-407A2 of the Belle Meade Municipal Code to modify certain provisions for flood hazard reduction on first reading. And Lyle, you want to address that quickly?
Yes, sir. Base flood elevation. FEMA determines where the base flood elevation is, and they require that you build your home, the first floor, 1 foot above that base flood elevation. Belle Meade on another 3 feet for a total of 4 feet. I'm going to share my screen with you, and you'll notice this is a house. Can everyone see this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, this is a house on Forsyth that was not in the flood plain. You'll notice the floor elevation is pretty much on grade. If you can see my mouse, I'm scrolling across there. That's the floor elevation there. Next door is a house that had to be raised according to FEMA and the 3 feet for Belle Meade, a total of 4 feet. So there's the floor elevation. Got the mouse under the window. That's about 4.5 feet down to grade. I've received more calls on this particular new home than any home since I started here because it is so abruptly out of the ground. I'm proposing that we lower the requirements of Belle Meade to only 1 feet above FEMA's requirement of 1 foot for a total of 2 feet. I'm going to share another picture here. This is Georgian Place. This is a very level street. This home that you're seeing on the left is due to be torn down. They're going to build a new home. It would be out of the ground, as you saw the one on Forsyth, about 4 feet. It would be very imposing. It would stand out like a sore thumb on the tree. If you notice, the one to the right is built somewhat down close to grade. All up and down the street is the same way. This does not change any sort of impact as far as flooding goes. This is merely for protection of your home. Every foot that is above the FEMA requirement saves on insurance. So if someone wants to raise their home up to the 4 feet or 5 or whatever they want and save on insurance, that's fine. Most people don't want to do that. Most people are more caring about the aesthetics from the street. So you're still protected. I'm just proposing that we don't allow it to be 4 feet anymore. It almost ruins the streetscape.
But this is not a floodplain area though. So it's for aesthetics that they want.
It is a floodplain area.
It's a floodplain area.
All of Georgia, I'm pretty sure, is in the floodplain.
It is.
Okay.
So,
Lyle, it's Bob.
Yes, Bob.
What is the reason we don't just leave it at what FEMA requires, 1 foot?
Steve Casey's on here. Steve, you want to address that?
Sure. Yeah, Lyle and I talked about this, and you know, I actually asked that same question. We talked about there's nothing really wrong with doing that. It's just that it's a huge change from where you are now, from going to 4 feet above the base flood elevation to 1 foot above. I will say this, as one who does flood studies and knows the assumptions that go into these studies, and then having lived through the May 2010 flood event, it's kind of nice to have a little buffer. And so I felt like Lyle's proposal to reduce it by 2 feet, 50% reduction in what it is now, was a reasonable balance between aesthetics and flood protection. And like you said, somebody can still raise it higher if they want to, but you're still getting a little bit of added protection with that 2 feet above.
So can y'all remind us, 30-something homes are in the floodplain? Is that right?
That sounds about right. Last time we did this it was about 3 years ago, we had to do that count.
And to me, the house on Forsyth is the only one that I've seen built up this high. Are there other examples that have happened?
Well, there's one next to the creek that's going to be probably torn down.
The old Thomas house?
Yes.
Yeah.
The creek runs down the left side of that property, correct?
No, it runs down the right side.
Well, right side if you're looking front of the street.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, there's still the height requirement that we have of 40 feet. They cannot go over that. Looking at a home where it just grows out of the ground 4 feet before the first floor begins, it just doesn't look right. A lot of people say, well, I'll use terrace walls and graduate it down, but that's a pretty good height to try to cover up.
Yeah. I mean, that particular house is the one that people have remarked to me the most.
Yeah.
Just because it seems so out of place.
Yes. And
we've got an opportunity. Side of the street, right? So the other side of the street doesn't have to be like Pat Johnston's new house didn't have to go up that high.
That's correct.
Is that right?
But as you go further down the street towards Linwood, the floodplain kind of encroaches on both sides.
Kind of goes uphill a little bit there.
A little bit, yes.
I mean, my house is in the floodplain right now, so.
Well, this is a good opportunity, I think, to get on this. We've got several homes that, well, not several, there's 2 that are coming before us that are going to be in the floodplain. And actually one of the homeowners is waiting until this happens before they design their home. They don't want to put a lot of money in designing the home, spending money with an architect, only to find out that the elevation could be lowered 2 feet. So I've got on the screen here, this is actually Georgia in place here. The subject property is where the mouse is there. And you can see how far up the street or across the street the floodplain goes.
Hey, Lyle, would it be helpful to remind everyone about the non-residential height requirement right now?
Go ahead.
What does that mean?
Yeah, so you may recall that City Hall, it was built, as I recall, 1 foot above the base flood elevation at the time, back in the mid-2000s. But that required, as I recall, a ordinance amendment in order to allow the non-residential structures to be built. And I believe it's 1 foot above the base flood elevation. So that's currently in the ordinance, but the residential structures were left at 4 feet above when that was done.
So just to understand the numbers here, because I'm reading ordinance 2020-3. So right now, FEMA requires 1 foot. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And Belle Meade requires 4 feet total.
An additional 3, total of 4.
For a total of 4. Okay, total. Okay, okay.
Right.
So I agree. This house on Forsyth, which was built up, I walk by it a lot. I know it. I understand what happened here. I've heard the complaints. There's a lot more they could do in landscaping to change this design. It doesn't have to look, but I get it. I get it. They were told 4 feet and they did it. They did it right. They could have made that look a lot better. The 100-year flood, you know, Steve, that doesn't mean that a place is guaranteed to flood just every 100 years.
No.
I mean, so, you know, and the reason there's a big cost to communities when private property floods. It's not just FEMA. It's not just their insurance paying it. The city has to pay a lot when there's flooding. So this was put in place because water does a lot of damage. I lived through Katrina. I've lived, you know, I mean, it's not, that's a different city, but you're not guaranteed one flood every century. So just be sure that that's understood. Anyway, so I see the point here, but that this house could have been designed a lot better. Now the houses over on Georgian that you're talking about, yeah, I mean, those houses were all built at a certain time and they're very landscape oriented, very close to the ground. It's going to look different, but I want to be sure we're doing the right thing.
Well, you're right about it's 1% chance in any given year in the 100 years that there could be a flood, and there's no guarantee since we had one in 2010 that we won't have another one this year or 5 years or 60 years down the road. This is not a mandatory thing. If somebody says, I'm concerned about my property, they're more than willing to raise it up to 3 feet or 4 feet or 5 feet
right,
if
right.
it was necessary. This is just for people that feel like, well, I'm meeting FEMA and I'm meeting Belle Meade and I'd like to go a little higher, or I'm going to meet the standards of FEMA and Belle Meade.
Okay.
While this is Rusty, so to one point, if we go with 2, we're still sort of doubling the requirement that FEMA has of 1. And I will just say to all of you, one of my pet peeves of all of construction is houses that are built too high off the ground. Anyone that knows me will tell you that I cannot stand a house that's built too high off the ground. I think it hurts the landscaping. I think it hurts the cityscape and the streetscape. And so I think this is a great idea. And I like the 2 feet because of really what Louise is bringing up, that we want to have maybe a little more protection than what FEMA requires. But I think this is a really reasonable proposal, and I like it.
I'd like to stress also that this in no way impacts the impact study for flooding in a floodplain. You still have to have a full impact study. And Steve, if you wanted to address that a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, none of the requirements for doing a flood study for encroachment in the floodway or any of the required compensation for filling in the floodplain would go away with this amendment. That would all still be the case. And we've had a few over the years of, you know, pretty detailed hydraulic studies that were performed in order to prove a no rise or no impact condition for proposed encroachments in the floodway and filling in the floodplain. Those would still be required.
And this doesn't affect, I mean, existing houses, this is really for new construction or an addition of some kind, is that right? And is there anything to say it would, an addition to an existing property would have to aesthetically, I mean, what if these people decided to add on?
That's actually a good point. Lyle, do you want to talk about the 50% value threshold?
Anytime you are doing an addition, for Belle Meade, you are allowed to take 50% of the sale value of the property to do improvements. If you go over that 50%, you have to raise the floor level of the entire house to meet the FEMA standards as well as Belle Meade, whatever that may be.
I couldn't remember. I know you explained it to us when we were looking at this house, Bob. I can't
Right.
remember. So if I decided to add to my house more than 50% of its size now, the whole house would have to come up.
That's
Is that
correct.
what you're saying?
That's correct.
Basically a demo. I mean, you can't, that's impossible.
That's
to rent
correct.
The house.
But if it was under 50%, if this 2-foot amendment goes through, then that addition would only have to be 2 feet above the BFE.
So those people could have steps down to a den or something if they decided to add it on. But it'd still have to pass through HCC and all the other ways we check on
Yes,
things.
absolutely.
Wow,
Steve,
go ahead.
This is Bob. Steve, educate me on what's the definition of floodway and floodplain. What's the difference?
Sure. Yeah. If I had a chalkboard, I'd draw it on a picture for you. But you can think of the floodplain as everywhere that water is going to be covering or inundating during a 100-year flood. And then the floodway is this. Basically it's something that you do in the model where you push in both sides of the floodplain to a point where you haven't increased more than 1 foot in depth. So it was set up by FEMA as a way to help floodplain administrators like Lyle understand if someone proposes to do something in the floodplain, but as long as they stay out of the floodway, there's not going to be more than a foot rise. So that's why when I mentioned floodway encroachments, if somebody actually gets into the floodway with what they're proposing to do, that requires a lot more effort on the applicant's part to prove that they're not causing any increase. I mean, no 0.00 foot increase. But if they're in the floodplain and they simply compensate for the filling that they're doing, then the level of effort on the applicant's part is much simpler. They just have to show that if they put 10 cubic yards of fill in the floodplain, they have to take 10 cubic yards out somewhere else to compensate.
And after the flood, the lines were redrawn from what I remember, and many more people were impacted by floodplain and floodway. Right?
It changed. I think some places it actually reduced a bit and other places it increased.
But a few homes in Belle Meade were put into that area that weren't before, apparently, after the flood.
Good discussion. Are we ready to move on? Anyone want to make a motion for the approval of 2020-3?
I will make the motion to accept 2020-3.
Is there a second?
Or I second.
Rusty seconds. Further discussion? Roll call, all in favor say aye.
Kathy Altenburn, aye.
Louise Bryant, aye.
Jim Hunt, aye.
Rusty Moore, aye.
Bob Wiggle, aye.
Good, thank you. All right, we got some resolutions now. You know, resolutions go into effect as soon as we pass these. These aren't on first reading. This is all a one time. 2020-03, a resolution adopting the 2020 Metropolitan Nashville Davidson County Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan. Chief, are you still there?
I am, sir.
You want to make any comments about this?
Sure. In order to participate in FEMA funds, every municipality has to have a mitigation plan. In a county structured metro like this, where we have our own government, instead of letting us go through huge expenses, we participated in their hazard mitigation plan, and we've added our parts to it. And Belle Meade is still in control of Belle Meade, but as long as we participate and add things to this, and it'll allow us, if we have another flood or anything that would be a disaster declared and FEMA monies could be reimbursed, being part of this plan and adopting this plan allows us to receive FEMA funds.
Good explanation. Anybody have any questions?
What exactly is the multi-hazard mitigation plan? What does it
Okay.
entail?
it entails everything from weather events, tornadoes, terrorist attacks, probably even COVID-19. Um, it's about it's a probably about a 8-inch thick binder of different how different departments work with each other through the Office of Emergency Management. It pulls in hospitals. It pulls in volunteer groups. It doesn't require us to add anything to Davidson County, but it basically says we're all work together. We do quarterly trainings where I'm the city's representative typically, and I sign in for these meetings and are given alerts. So that's sort of it in a nutshell. I'm happy to send you a link to take a look at it, but it's like a pre-planning. Every 5 years, it has to be updated.
Yeah, that makes sense. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
This just says we're going to be in line with Davidson County. I mean, we do this every year, correct?
I think we've every 5 years ago, I believe.
5 years? Okay.
We just personalize this for Belle Meade, though, correct? So it's,
yes.
Yes.
All right. Any further discussion? Louise, glad you asked that question. Do I hear a motion for approval of resolution 2020-03?
So moved. Louise Bryan.
Thank you.
Your second?
Second, Kathy Altenburn.
Second, Kathy Altenburn. Roll call vote for approval. All in favor say aye.
Kathy Altenburn, aye.
Louise Bryan, aye.
Jim Hunt, aye.
Rusty Moore, aye.
Bob Weigel, aye.
Resolution passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Resolution 2020-04, authorizing participation in the governor's local government support grant project and confirming approval by the Board of Commissioners of the items funded by the grant. This is what we talked about before, the $693,000 whatever, with $68,579 to go in the general fund and $25,000 going into the sewer fund. This is a good resolution. We have to accept this approval of. Any discussion on this?
Mayor, this is Rusty Moore. I'd like to move for approval and commend our city manager for applying for these funds.
Amen. Got a motion made. Is there a second?
I second Louise Bryan.
Motion made and seconded by Louise. Further discussion? Roll call vote. All in favor say aye.
Kathy Altenburn, aye.
Louise Bryan, aye.
Jim Hunt, aye.
Rusty Moore, aye.
Bob Weigel, aye.
Well, let's see.
Mayor, this may be your first meeting when every vote has been unanimous.
Well, except Bob didn't vote in the minutes, I don't think.
Well, let's go back and do that.
Hey, do we
Or
know
say we did. Or say we did.
if things go well, Beth, will we meet in person in June, or does that meet phase 3 or whatever? Do we know?
If Metro, hopefully by then they'll be in phase 2. I'm hoping, because this is the second week of phase 1.
And the numbers have been going on the decrease. So
It's just easier for us to follow
We-
Metro and trying to go out.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. I forgot.
Otherwise, we have to come up with our own plan, and I don't really want to have to develop a plan.
That's right. I
If we can help
forgot.
it. But
What Metro does.
I'm thinking that, if phase 2 is adopted, that allows for gatherings of no more than 50 people. You still have to do social distancing and perhaps wear masks, but that will give us the option to meet in person again.
We can meet through the end of the year by Zoom if we want, right?
Yes, legally, because the governor did pass an executive order allowing that.
Cool.
Laura Catherine, why'd you turn your video off? I saw some people passing the whiskey bottle around behind you. Who is that?
I wanted to hide the whiskey bottles. My guests are here, so I'm going to drop off, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye, y'all.
Bye. I saw you, though. Okay.
I'm about to do the same if y'all don't get out of here.
By the time we get this Zoom thing worked out, we're going to stop doing them. There's
Mayor?
something I think Lyle ought to continue doing because it's so effective in what he does.
Mayor, this is
Ma'am.
Beth. I do have one other matter, just briefly.
Let me hear it.
Say something. Just before this meeting, I got an email from the person that chairs the Boulevard Bolt, saying that they are in hopes that they will be able to hold the Boulevard Bolt at Thanksgiving, and wondering if they could go ahead and submit their parade permit request to the commissioners. I kind of feel like letting them go ahead and submit it, and we'll just wait and see. At least they'll have the date reserved if they submit their parade permit request. Kind of wait and see how things go. You might want to prove it with that caveat. I don't know.
I agree. That's so far away. We don't know what's going to happen.
Correct.
Would like to go ahead and get it in. I would certainly in favor of them going and submitting it.
Okay, good. I'll let her know. Thanks. That's all I had.
Okay. Anybody got anything else?
I have a question.
Yeah, Bob.
Beth probably knows the answer. Whatever happened on the bids on the left lane turn thing on the Harding Road from Belle Meade Boulevard?
We have not bid that yet. And once I learned that we were getting this grant from the state, we can apply a portion of that, over $60,000, to that project. So we bid it until after July 1.
Okay.
It has to be a project that's been approved for the next fiscal year in order for the grant funds to apply.
So you're going that'll go under the next year's fiscal year then, right?
Yes,
Okay.
it's a capital project or a maintenance project actually for next fiscal year.
Good question, Bob.
I have a quick question, and I should have asked Laura Catherine. Did Ceres revisit the Cheekwood donation and decide to go away with that, or did it just?
Yeah, they didn't defer it. They just didn't vote. They just said no. They don't. I don't think they really wanted to do it.
Good. Okay.
I think they were looking. There was going to be too much conflicts of interest and all that.
Right. Did you tell Cheekwood? I guess they've already.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I told them. I told them before they voted even on it.
Oh yeah. Good. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Bob, and what Bob was answering, I got another question that would be the signs we had out that Larry went and picked all up. What was there something that made the decision to pull those up?
This is Rusty. I can answer that because I think when we initially put them out, it was we decided maybe to do them for 10 days or a couple of weeks just as a warning, and then have them in a stockpile so that if we want to put them back out again, we have them to put out, but it was not supposed to be a permanent thing.
Okay. So when we actually get ready to put the lines down, we can do it right before that or something if we want to do that. Okay. Anything else? And any further comments? Steve,
I'd like to make.
Go ahead, Bob.
May I make a comment?
Yeah.
This is Bob. Again, I didn't get in on all the thank yous, but I really appreciate the job that the administrative staff, Beth, Lee, sewer department, public works department, Lyle and his new active position as assistant city manager. I thought we did a yeoman job and two very tough things. The virus and certainly this last storm that came through here. The tornado before that didn't really do much to us, but I am proud. I'm proud of everybody in that room that normally comes in that room. I'm really proud of you.
Amen, Bob.
Thank you.
Well said.
Thank you, Bob.
Great job by all.
And the police department too.
Yeah.
Definitely the police department. You know how I feel about the police department.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Well,
Thank you, Bob. Yes.
I like your thumbs up, Louise.
She did.
Well, you also know how I feel about the neighborhood watch program. I think that on the ground, those boots are on the ground, and I think that we've got now a great group of 42 people who are really in touch with every resident in Belle Meade. Louise is a part of that, but I think that the effectiveness that you'll see a lot of improvement in our communications to the resident through this program. If there's no further questions, no further comments, great meeting. Thank you all.
Bye.
Adjourned.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.